love and longing. Hundreds. There were hundreds of them from every angle. So they did what was the smart thing. If they couldn't wipe out the evil, then they'd take a defensive formation and crowd around the boys. There wasn't any movement for a bit. Little puffs of war fire were sent out, but no one was old enough to have a proper blast of flame. Not that the puffs meant anything either. They were sucked into the walls. No one was hurt, but no one was able to do anything than occasionally shout at each other. Then when they started really shouting, that too was lost. It had taken a bit for both sides to notice they couldn't hear the other side, and now the two hordes of children were just staring at each other as they tried to figure out what was going on, how the other side was doing this, and what was... "Hey, are you kids coming down for breakfast?" A voice calls from down below and everyone pauses. "Who are you?" one of the girls shouts. "I think," one of the boys says from deep inside the Harkul horde. We're in the dark forest." "What does a Harkul know?" one of the Barlees demands. "He's right." The voice from before calls up. It's a man, strong and deep. "You are under the protection of the woods now. It will not let you hurt each other, and it won't be letting you go hungry either, so come on down here before we bring you down here." "Come and get us," someone from the Harkul crowd announces, and everything suddenly shifts and they're standing around a large table. There's an uproar and several cries as the children immediately try to do something with their hated rivals right there, but every attempt has them suddenly a step too far away from the table itself to actually do anything. "Good God, you kids are outright feral," one of the nearby men states. "Do we have to play with them?" a child to his side asks. "No, but you do have to be a good example," he answers. By which I mean don't fight pointlessly and keep telling them they're being dumb for fighting for no reason." The adult clarifies, and both sorcerers in training suddenly nod. Dale chuckles to himself as the unblinking gaze of the dark forest misses nothing, and the only time a child manages to strike another child is when it's a direct sibling, and never when it's a truly harsh blow. Dale claps his hands together. A touch of axiom has the normally moderate sound come out so powerfully that it ruffles clothing and gently nudges the brawling brats off balance. "All right, everyone settle down. Now that you're all here, it's time to lay down the ground rules." "Who are you?" About 20 of them demand at once. "I am Dale." That's all you need to know for a name, but what you really need to know is who it is that's taken you into their home after your parents were deemed unsuitable. There's a massive uproar at that, and a few more superclaps are needed to quiet them down. I understand you're upset, but rushing off to murder distant relatives and leaving you unattended is not a good sign. Your family's committed crimes, so your families are in jail. It's that simple. Now, you have all been brought together into one home in hopes that the pointless and self-destructive feud between your families will end. Never. They're evil. More than half the children scream out. Dale then raises his right arm and a glow starts to fall over one child in every 3. "Do you see your glowing siblings? The family that's now covered in pale green light?" Dale demands the suddenly quiet crowd. There is no answer as the frightened children wonder what's going on. "I was not asking empty air children. Do you see the light?" "Yes," is the general answer. "Do you know who they are?" Dale asks. The answer is again yes. They are those who are of both Harkul and Barlis blood. Your families joined together generations ago and kept killing each other, even though they were just killing themselves at this point. "Every one of you is a sibling or cousin to the others," Dale announces sternly before shouting, "I will not have siblings slaughter each other, nor shall your guardian." His shout has all the children staring at them. Now, you all want to know where you are. You're in the heart of the dark forest. I am the human sorcerer Dale. To those that want it, I teach hunting, tracking, and the preparation of animals for eating. Also, I'll be adding some leather working soon, but I don't want to overwhelm my current apprentices and sons. Mux Morrow and Jeth Erla. The silence after being told they're in the dark forest is deafening. Then a single young boy raises a hand. Dale points towards him. Is this because we tried to become sorcerers a few days ago?" the boy asks. "Maybe. This is happening because when we were looking into why you tried to become a sorcerer, your family started fighting right in front of us, letting us see that something needed to change. Without that fight?" Dale shrugs at that point. "Who knows? But I can tell you that this has important eyes on it. The way your families lived their lives before stops now." "Oh yeah? Who's watching us?" "The Empress gave her express permission for the Dark Forest to be your legal guardian." Dale responds and there's audible gasping. "Wow, what?" "The Empress has given permission for the Dark Forest to adopt you," Dale says before grinning. "And as one of its sorcerers, that makes me your big brother. So please eat your breakfast, otherwise you might hurt Big Brother's feelings." Jate Barlise ignores the guard as she walks up to the weeping bars of the meeting room. It's fairly standard in Apuk prisons. Axiom-reinforced bars with a powerful cooling presence on them that then have a second layer of tri-type bars around them. The Axiom bars keep the immediate area so cold you'd need a battle princess to melt through, and the tritite stops you from trying other kinds of silliness. Identified Axiom adepts or princess-class criminals got special attention. Attention that Jate and her family did not warrant. They hated the Harkul, but they weren't taking it that far yet. On the other side, she can see Zella Sisa pacing with a terrified look on her face. That's not good. "Zella, what's wrong?" Jate demands as she marches up to the bars. She stands just outside the layer of frost and can feel the mist pooling around her feet. "It's the children. They've taken your children," Zela says, rushing up. Jate leans forward into the frigid cold, her inner fire fighting to keep her warm. "What happened?" Jate demands. Zella's not prone to panic. Something must be nightmarishly wrong. "They've taken them," Zela says in a disbelieving tone as she leans into the cold and rests her hands on the tritite. "They've been taken. Yours and the Harkul." "Where?" "The Dark Forest. They're in the Dark Forest." "And the girls?" Jate Barlise asks as she tries to process that. "They're there too. They've banished the children of both families to the Dark Forest. It's the Empress's own decree. She authorized it personally." "All right. That's more than enough. Back away from the frozen bars before you cold-weld yourself to them, you idiot." The guard on Zela's side of the bars orders, and a few moments later, the frantic informant is pulled away. What do you mean, the Empress decree? What's going on?" Jate Barlise asks, before she feels a hand on her own shoulder and is pulled back away from the frozen center of the room. "Maintain a respectful distance from the bars for your own health, inmate," the guard says formally before backing off. "The Dark Forest is legally recognized. She did this only after it offered to take in the children. It's a cursed forest. How does it offer anything to anyone? Through its sorcerers. They're all connected to it, and they have the ears of the battle princesses who speak directly to the Empress. The Bone Chewer. He's just one sorcerer. There's an army of them," Zela exclaims. "Ma'am, you need to calm right down, otherwise this meeting is going to be cut short." The guard on Zela's side of the divide states, How is anyone supposed to get through the Dark Forest?" Jate Barlise asks herself in horror. "Unless, what if it's a code?" "You're joking," Lala Harkul states plainly as Elisa Siza drops the information on her. She can feel herself going somewhat numb as the transparent but absurdly strong window between them, laced with tri-tight wire, allows her to see Ellis shake her head. She blinks a few times as she feels a strange sensation dance around her mouth, particularly at the back, a nervous reflex when her blood gets pumping. "There, Lala begins before coughing to clear the involuntary sparks out of her mouth. If she actually breathes fire in here, then the guards will be giving her a lot more attention than she wants. There must be some mistake. Being sent into the dark forest is a death sentence to anything that isn't a prospective sorcerer. The officers may be corrupt lunatics for allowing the Barleys to walk around as free women as much as they do, but they won't condemn hundreds of children to their deaths. I'm not sure what else to tell you. The paperwork all says they're in the dark forest and that it's approved by the Empress to give it the legal standing and right to adopt. Okay, there must be some kind of misinterpretation or deliberate obfuscation, likely from the disgusting Barless, Lala realizes before nodding to herself. So the fight's turning back into one for the children again? Trust a Barless to sink that low. Ellis, listen to me very carefully. We've been deceived. I need you to get to the bottom of this. Lala, I'm not a fighter. My sister and I are... The smaller Apuk turns back to look at the guard, who's paying her a lot more attention. Are not the type to involve ourselves with such things. I understand and respect that, Ellis. But as a friend, I need you to help me make sure my children are all right. I have a son, Ellis. There's no telling what the Barless will do to him if they get even half a chance, let alone what they're likely already doing to my daughters. Please, just figure out who's trying to play us for a fool and get the real information. I need to know my children are safe. I'll do my best, Ellis promises her. Wow, that bad? Zila asks Ellis as she returns to their shared apartment to find her twin alternating between a crimson hewer light blood wine and water. Oh, like you had better information. Ellis grumps as she takes a sip of the water and flinches. I think I'm done though. My head is pounding. Right. I think I need the other half of that cup anyways, especially if all the evidence points towards the children actually being in the dark forest and no one believing it, Ellis asks, and Zayla sighs. I'm still waiting to hear back from my algorithm. You and delays. Ellis mocks her somewhat, even as she pushes the half-empty cup of wine away from herself. Mine has confirmed everything. Cost me a burner communicator, but I got the info. And that's why I use delays. It lets me keep more of my burners. Keeps the cost down, Zella says as she sits down. Let's see if it's anything. Predictably, Ellis swipes the communicator out of her sister's hand and begins scanning it. So much for the usefulness of the delays. It's the same insanity here. The dark forest adopted the kids. Yeah, right? Well, what if it's real? Zella asks. If you got drunk while I was drinking, then I've been lied to in the worst possible way. Ellis grumps as she throws the burner communicator away. Halfway through its flight to the next room, it suddenly turns in mid-air and then slaps into Zella's hand. Don't break my stuff, Zella tells her sister as she sits down to study it. It's just a confirmation. It doesn't make sense, though. There are entire monuments to the armies lost to the dark forest. Our horror stories are about the things in there. Why would they send the Harkle and Barless children into that place? Isn't it obvious? Ellis asks. Clearly not, little sister. You've only ever had a centimeter on me and only on the tail. Just spill it out. What do you see that I don't? They're done with the feud, the cops, so they're getting something else to finish the job. Whether the kids are actually in the forest or not isn't the point. It's about making the Harkul and Barless think it so they go running in and get themselves killed. Which means it's already failed. Lala Harkul is convinced this is a misdirection. That's what Jate Barless thinks too, which means we're going to get screamed at from both sides again. And if they start to try and really dig at each other, it's going to be almost impossible to hide the fact we've been playing them both. Right. Well, you get some rest and Big Sister will start looking into an apartment in another kingdom. This river of gravy is about to go dry, Zayla says, and Ellis gets up and starts staggering to her bedroom. It sucks being the responsible one sometimes, but I do get to pick where we go after. I'm thinking tropical.